So I'm a little bit of a rascal, and also a little bit of a compulsive creative. When I'm not sort of spending my time designing and working on Illustrator things and computer stuff, then I am usually found in streets around the world painting. So I guess you could call me a sort of urban decorator. You know. Yeah, it's funky, man. The way it all kind of started was I was born and raised in Antwerp, in Belgium. And then when I was 17, I decided to sort of wangle this little adventure to Los Angeles. And it was pretty much all for my love of skateboarding because this sort of mecca for skateboarding is in LA. And I just had to come here some way, somehow. I knew it was right. I made the trek, and my obsession sort of fed my interests in branding and the arts and all that sort of thing. And then I ended up here. So when I got to LA, I was completely broke. I barely speak the language. I share one bedroom apartment, yes, with 5 good friends. And, I had no developed talent whatsoever. So I ended up here, didn't know really what was going on. My sort of gut feeling brought me to LA. And if there was anything that skateboarding sort of taught me, then it must have been that you can't until you say you can. And that sort of propelled my spirit forward into the world of teaching myself all these things because I couldn't afford to go to college. So, something had to be done about that. And I figured, keeping my work ethic high and my overhead low was the way to go. That's not funny, by the way. This is a serious photograph. Well, you and I are going to have a chat after this. Thought I slipped you that 20, man. So, aside from designing, the usual hundreds of business cards, flyers, and birthday cards, early on, I understood that art was communication. So, I asked myself, what is it then that I would wish to communicate? What would it be? And why do I want to communicate this? Ever since I was a young puppy, 12, 13 years old, I had been a tagger, a complete rascal in Antwerp. And obviously that sort of mentality had to be left behind because, immigration would not agree. But I remained fascinated with the medium of spray paint. So, after some time of, experimenting on drywall and things on my balcony at my crappy apartment, I finally figured that, let's just paint these images, portraits of kids, with the message next to them saying, remember who you are. And the intent behind the mural campaign is then to have people sort of think back and reconnect with the state of being that we all enjoyed when we were children, a state of being that's full of love and joy and a sense of wonder for the world around us. And the campaign then ultimately serves as a reminder that we should always remember who we are, where we're at today, and where we can possibly go. And also that we should never lose sight of the grandest and the greatest vision we hold deep inside ourselves for ourselves. So that's sort of how my little adventure in the arts started taking shape. Here's one I did in the city of Puerto Vallarta recently in Mexico, and it was interesting because a representative for the Department of Tourism contacted me and had heard about the Remember Who You Are installations and asked me if I would like to come do this project in Mexico. And I said, sure, but why, me? Why there? What's the deal? And they went on to say that there's a city right next to Puerto Vallarta that's called Nuevo Vallarta. And Nuevo Vallarta sort of is going the corporate resort route. And that's something that they wanted to combat. And again, in order to remind themselves of their beautiful, authentic mom and pop's sort of setting there, they thought it would be a great idea to paint that, to have me paint this Remember Who You Are mural in the downtown area there, which was pretty interesting, I thought. And I've had one too many cups of wine, man. you know, which is fantastic. And I know I'm being recorded, and this is a timeless sort of document. But if you're at home right now watching, don't be afraid. You look funny. Mario, where are you? I need you. Yeah, okay. Where's my sidekick? I guess along the way I got interested in sort of documenting my work. So I took it upon myself to sort of write and direct this sort of art film, in which the Remember Who You Are campaign happens to be one of the chapters, which we'll sort of take a look at now. But forgive me for the lack of color correction, which is so happy now. Turn up the volume, please. Gracias, amore. Cool. So this is another one of my mural campaigns, which are sort of centered around the awareness geezers, whom are best described as adventurous types who have stumbled upon spirituality and awareness by not following the suggested path in life. Woohoo! What a sentence. I've said that before. But rather, by way of following their hearts, guided by an irreducible element of rascality. Yes. Darling. Where is that? That's in northeast. Oh, that one? That's on Pacific and Brooks in Venice. It is, yeah. It's brand new. It's still drying as we speak. So then the awareness geezers bring with them the fruits of their excursions in the form of all these uplifting messages in order to sort of make people think about them. Things like be peace, the only time is now, send love in response to hate, follow your heart, all that sort of thing. Be the change, there is no try, there is only you. A good shit is better than a bad fuck. And we are all one. No one said it was going to be a PG show. No. At least I didn't sign away. And then, that's how it goes on, tons and tons of these little affirmations and messages to make the viewer think and maybe get into some sort of a conversation with oneself or with, the people that they're with. But between you and I, at the end of the day, they're all just cubist, concentric self-portraits. Hence the resemblance. Or maybe not. So in any case, some of you are wondering, well, why the damn messages? Couldn't you just leave it at the aesthetics? Huh? Was that too much to ask for? Well, good question. No, but seriously, I feel that change starts with it. We all kind of sort of know that. Because what we think about leads to what we do. And what we do then leads to what we become. So if it's change that we want, we have to always start by changing our thinking. So I've kind of taken it upon myself then to do my part by painting these murals with all these uplifting messages in high traffic areas of cities all around the world. Just, to get people inspired and to get them to question what they believe in and why they believe in it to begin with, in the hopes that it may produce some sort of positive result. So far, I've painted more than 125 murals in something like 10 or 11 countries. So, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be quitting anytime soon because the paint fumes are getting me crazy. And what's a brother to do about that? You just get lost in the fume. So now, obviously, along the way, I started digitizing all my stuff and getting all the elements ready for various other forms of expressions. And before I knew it, I started getting into collaborations with brands. This is a part of a series of snowboards that I did for Palmer. They kind of sort of create the best technologically advanced board out there in the industry. Random things like trade show booths for brands in order to kind of breathe a breath of fresh air back into it and make them trend relative. Things happen like random things like shoes. There's a line of shoes in Japan, which has been going strong for a couple of seasons now. And the sky's the limit, lines of lamps, let there be lights. And I don't mind because at the end of the day, what interests me is sort of getting the message out there, The message always stays the same, it's just the canvas that changes. And if it's my intent to sort of reach people, then I should not limit myself to just painting in the street or painting on canvas. I should be open to product design and all these things because that grows my audience and that's ultimately a fun thing. And of course there's something about reproduction that I love, but I feel that that's a topic for another night. Reproduction. Recently, all these pictures are cropped, by the way, which is okay. But recently I helped launch Western Union's first ever global campaign, the Yes campaign. So I painted this mural at the Time Warner Center in New York. Later then the mural was transported to Grand Central Station, where it was on display for quite some time. So things are getting interesting. Things are getting interesting. I love the last guy who spoke. He was so much better than me. Yeah. But so well spoken and memorized. I'm looking at the screen all the time. But by working in the street that often, I find myself in all sorts of conversations with all sorts of people, which is very enriching. And the most profound of these conversations happen with the homeless. And I'm sure you guys live in LA, most of you, and if you're open to it, have a good chat with a homeless person. It's, yeah, there's people here. Yeah, it's fun, man. And some of them are kooky, and you look out for that, little psychobabble, and if it arises, run. But, once they hit certain, snares, yeah, it's very interesting. Man. So, a while back, I had an encounter with a Katrina victim who had been homeless for quite some time and came up to me and said, "You got $2?" And I said, "Wow, $2, man. What happened to a quarter?" Right? And he said, "Inflation." I'm like, "Oh, good point." So I said, "Okay, young man, what if I gave you $100 instead of, $2?" And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, what if I gave you," and I happen to have this, these stencil paintings on me, which I sell for $100, the smaller ones, and I said, "What if I wrote you a receipt and wrote your name on it, and it would state that I would give you this painting as a donation. I would state on there the value and sort of gave it to you, and ultimately it's worth $100. If you can get 50 for it, 20, 15, a meal, whatever, fine. But how about that?" And he's like, "Give it to me." So I gave it to him, and I was painting a mural somewhere, and I didn't really think anything interesting was going to happen, but he came back 20 minutes later, and I kid you not, he was wearing a North Face jacket, one of those long Arctic ones, right? Eating sushi and waving a $20 bill. And I was like, my God, I'm onto something. So immediately, I'm like, "What happened, man?" And he told me the story, how he ran into someone and they thought it was so sweet and everything, and bought the sushi, gave the 20, took the jacket off from himself and gave it to him. And I was like, "Wow, this is interesting. This is profound." So I immediately gave him another one, and yeah, and I saw a change in his energy. Really, he was like totally motivated and alert and pep, and he went off saying "Charge!" Right? And I'm like, "Wow, this is something." So ever since that day, a few years ago, I sort of always keep stencil paintings and this little sales book receipt thingy on me, just in case I run into someone, and then I give them a stencil painting. And I think that's interesting because just the way it's instead of asking for a handout, right, from the position of the homeless man, they now have something to offer up that's of value. So it sort of shifts their status in society, if you will, and energetically they come from a place of confidence then. And then once they get a small taste of that, right, who knows what happens. So again, in On Purpose, the film that is not color corrected and looks very crappy on the screen for this moment, I sort of dedicated a little chapter to it. And let's roll the tape. So that's so then, you know, the whole point of even documenting that, which is painful to begin with and not easy and, you know, feels kind of wrong, is just kind of to inspire people to get involved a little bit more, without necessarily having to go out of their way too much to make a small difference. I mean, you know, for me it's easy to make a few paintings and hand out receipts, and because that's what I do anyway. You know, that's sort of what happens naturally in my life. I have paintings, so might as well, you know, give a painting and give a receipt. That's something small, and I'm not too much, you know, I don't have to go out of my way to do that. So the simple sharing of whatever it is that we're at the source of, I feel then can make all the difference, and the joy and the returns of that, and sort of being of service, you know, the joys of those things are immediate, and in that respect, you know, giving is receiving. And, you know, I think that's important. So, on that note, I think I'm at 25 minutes and 22 seconds, and I will pay the fine, however much it is. So, thank you.